In this course, you'll learn what a T-log is, how you use T-logs in your documentation in Therap, and how to create, view, and access T-logs once they're written. So what is a T-log? It's a Therap log entry, a T-log. In the workplace, you may need to jot down important notes or a notable event that happened while you were working with an individual. Maybe a phone call you took, or to make note of where you went with them, something you'd want others to see. In the past, this may have been done with a facility notebook, but these get lost. Pages get torn out, coffee stains blur entries. You may not even be able to read your coworker's entry, or maybe they can't read yours. You, however, use Therap. You document things like daily notes and documentations about an individual for their record electronically. And in Therap, we do this using T-logs. T-logs are viewable by other team members as soon as you submit them, so you never have to choose who to include in the communication. The note is about an individual and is shared with the team. T-logs are versatile, but your agency is going to have specific rules on creating T-logs that they want to share with you. So while you'll get examples here, you really do need to refer to your agency guidelines where applicable for specific instructions of when to write a T-log and what to include. Okay, let's start and show you how to create one first. We start in Therap on the dashboard. First, click on the Individual tab. T-logs are under the Care section. Click the New option to the right of T-log. You'll either see a list of sites, which we call programs, where you work or have access, or you see a list of individuals at your work site. Choose the program and you'll see the list of individuals at the program. If you just work at one location, you're going to get a list of individuals as soon as you select New from that dashboard. To write a T-log about an individual, click on their name. Now you'll see a blank T-log screen with fields to be filled out. The top indicates you're writing a T-log. Its status is new, meaning it hasn't been submitted yet. Next to this status, you'll see the small I icon. This indicates additional information. Clicking it shows Therap has already created a form ID for this T-log. It's helpful if it needs to be searched. The time zone's here and has your name is entered by. Below, you see the name of the individual you're writing about and the program you've identified or facility program that you work at. Some of the fields on this T-log are required. You'll have to have a summary, which gets displayed in lists of T-logs, and you'll need to select at least one type to classify this T-log. Very helpful if a nurse is looking for health T-logs or a behaviorist is only looking for behavior type entries. And you have to have a notification level. These get defaulted to low, but you can select a higher notification level if needed. Therap lists 6 types of T-logs: health, notes, follow-up, behavior, contacts, and general. You can't add other types to this T-log list, but it is possible to select more than one type. Your agency will help determine which types you should use for particular entries. Next, you can adjust the notification level. T-logs will populate the dashboard to-do lists of other members on your team. They may work with a lot of individuals and see a large number of T-logs every day, so it's important that the correct notification level is selected. High notification level T-logs get immediate attention. Mediums are typically read next, and low-level T-logs might not actually be read until later when time allows. Therefore, your agency will provide guidance on when you're going to use high, medium, or low. T-logs require a summary. This can be a brief sentence or a few words about the T-log, maybe community outing for the summary, and in the description more details about the outing the person went on. Like notifications and types, a lot of agencies assign guidelines for summaries. You have keywords you're supposed to use, which will make alerting supervisors and clinical team members easier, and make searching T-logs much quicker for them. You may also have rules about the types of things you can write in a T-log versus something that may go in ISB data or SCOM. You're going to refer to your agency guidelines on whether there are particular summary keywords that you need to use when writing your T-logs. The description field allows you to write the content of the T-log. If this is a health note about a new medication and I checked off health and used the summary line as new medication, I would use the description field to write down what new med is starting, when it begins, any doctor's notes that accompany that new med order, and note that I notified the on-call nurse of the new med ordered. As you type your note, you'll see the number of characters remaining beneath the text box. In the lower right-hand corner, since I have up to 10,000 characters and may have some really long T-logs, I can actually click and drag this tool to resize the text box for proofreading my T-log. Many T-logs will be complete after selecting a type, notification level, adding a summary, and writing the description. Therap, however, has additional fields available that some agencies decide whether to utilize in their T-logs. Time in and time out can be added here if needed. You can type entries using the guidance in gray in each time box, but the clock tool to the right of each field is very useful as well. You can click on the hour or minutes for a quick selection or approximate time. Once that time is selected, you can actually use the arrows or click on the minutes to edit the exact time. Next, you have Reporter. Reporter means someone else informed you of the information in your T-log. You can list other Therap users as the reporter. Just begin to type their first or last name or their title and click on the matching name that Therap pulls up. You'd then add the time that they reported it to you in the time field to the right. T-logs also have an optional attachment field. In the case of the health-related new medication order, I could attach the doctor's order to the T-log either through the Add File button, which is going to prompt me to search the computer for a file that I've already scanned and saved to a folder or drive. Or I can use the Scan File button, and Therap will work with the scanner that's been linked to the computer you are using. Finally, you have an option for photos to be added at the bottom of the form, and you can attach images that you've saved or connected to the computer. I want to stress, however, your agency is going to have specific guidelines about using photos and will have instructions for you whether or not you should use the photo features in T-logs, or if attachments should be added here in T-logs or elsewhere. Don't just take a photo and upload it to Therap if you aren't sure what your agency's photo policy is. At the bottom of your T-log form, you have action items: cancel, back, and submit. If you don't intend to send a T-log and wanted to write another form instead, you could use the cancel button. If you don't submit, Therap is not saving anything you've written, so cancel voids anything you've written thus far. If you inadvertently click the wrong name to someone's T-log, you could use the back button and it will take you back to the individual select screen. The submit button sends the T-log out for the rest of the team to view. If you're done with the T-log, you would click submit. If you don't see this successfully submitted confirmation page, you have an error that needs to be addressed. Most likely, you simply may have forgotten to select a type or add a summary to the T-log. Therap always gives you this confirmation message to let you know your form's been saved or submitted. So, if you don't get it, that should be a red flag that the entry did not go through. When you have T-logs to read, they show up on your To-Do tab on your dashboard. Here are several indicated by numbers under high, medium, and low. You know how many new unread T-logs you need to read by this count on your dashboard, and since they're sorted by priority, you should start with those high priority T-logs first. A note on T-logs in your to-do list. While any unread T-logs go to your to-do list, they don't actually remain there indefinitely. High T-logs will remain on your to-do list for 8 days if unread. Medium T-logs will remain for 5 days, and low-level T-logs will remain for 3 days. These don't get automatically read once they remove from your to-do list. So supervisors can still see if T-logs are going unread. But you're not overwhelmed by high numbers if you aren't reading every note in that agency, or you've been out on leave for weeks or months. To get to those unread T-logs, you may still use the search feature and narrow by read status to find the unread T-logs. Many of us are required to clear the page of T-logs at the beginning of our shift. Every T-log you acknowledge will reduce the number on your to-do count, aiding you to quickly identify when new T-logs are submitted. To read a T-log, click the number under a notification level. You'll see a list of T-logs with basic information in a sortable chart. Any field can be sorted here. By default, you see the most recent T-logs at the top of your list. Click on a T-log entry to read further details. Once open, you can see all kinds of information about the T-log. Remember that eye icon that you saw when writing a T-log? There's now more information with this T-log you're reading. You can now see who's entered the T-log and when they submitted it. You can open the acknowledge status to even see who's already read this message, when it was read. When you scroll through the T-log, notice there is a new field for follow-up comments. These are T-logs that others have added, or you may add by clicking the Add Follow-up button. Adding a follow-up links T-logs together, and may be used to add more documentation for an ongoing concern, a medical issue, or a prior T-log that required additional follow-up. So, what do you do when you've read the T-log? Well, you simply come to the bottom and click Acknowledge. By doing so, you're acknowledging the content of this T-log, so your name will be added whenever someone opens that Acknowledge Status link. If you're not sure about a set of instructions or have questions about a particular T-log, you should probably use the SCOM button, which would allow you to send a secure communication to a team member where you may need to clarify something about the T-log. You also have a Previous and a Next button that will take you to the next T-log if you aren't ready to acknowledge this T-log yet. However, Therap still tracks that you've opened the T-log, even if you didn't acknowledge it. The system will note the T-log was opened, and you can continue to have an unacknowledged T-log on your dashboard waiting to be acknowledged every time you return to your to-do list. So you'll really want to acknowledge and clear that T-log per your agency guidelines as soon as you can. You'll also have a couple other buttons depending on your role assigned. For instance, here you see an Update button, which is going to allow the viewer to make changes to a T-log in Therap. Maybe the notification level was incorrect, or a summary keyword was misspelled, making it difficult to find in a search. Using the Update function, you or a supervisor may go in and save the corrected version of this T-log for view, while the previous versions remain as part of the record. Other users, typically administrators, may have the Delete option for a T-log, in cases where the note added was not appropriate for this person's record. Maybe it was a duplicate entry of the submitter wrote about the wrong individual in writing this note. Like with Update, Delete doesn't entirely remove the T-log from Therap. It archives the deleted T-log so that it's not searchable with the general record. Certain users still have access to these, so it's important for you to know your T-logs are going to be part of the individual's record, and the notes that you write should always be professional and reflect what you would want to add in their record. How do you find an old T-log after having acknowledged it? Or how would you find your own T-log to add a follow-up? Or just double check that you've entered it correctly? The answer to do any of these is to click Search next to T-log when you're on the individual tab on your dashboard. Your T-logs that you write don't populate your to-do list. Therap's not going to make you waste your time acknowledging T-logs that you should be already aware of since you wrote them. So you'll need to learn the search option here to bring up your own T-logs. On the search page, you'll notice that you can be very specific in filling out a lot of fields, or very open-ended about what you're looking for. Don't worry about trying to fill everything in. As a matter of fact, we recommend leaving fields open if you're not sure. A mistake here will actually filter out the T-log you're looking for. To look for something you created, just enter a couple letters of your first or last name in the Entered By field, and it will pull up anything that fits that search. The search parameters default to the last few weeks, but you can go back much farther than that. The system requires you narrow down some fields if you're going back more than 3 months. Also, your agency will need to grant you access if you need to go back beyond a period of 13 months. Most of us won't really need to access T-logs from years prior, but in the case that you do and you're not able to see something, contact your system administrator. With your T-log searched, the rest of the functions operate just like we saw in View. You can add follow-ups, send an SCOM, acknowledge if you haven't already, possibly update or delete if you have the privileges enabled to do so. However, there is one exception that you won't see in viewable T-logs. That's that T-logs searched that are older than 1 month are no longer editable. They're now part of the historical record for that individual. Whether you use the View link or the Search feature to get a list of T-logs, you may see a link at the bottom of the search results called Excel Exports. Clicking on it offers 2 versions of the T-log report for you to export search results: Export to Excel and Export Detailed to Excel. Here's the view of that Export to Excel report. And here's the view of the Export Detailed to Excel. The Export Detailed to Excel gives you all of the data that you viewed in the search result list, plus it adds the descriptions of each of the listed T-logs. So in doing reviews or looking up dozens or hundreds of T-logs at a time, you can review those T-logs very quickly to find the one that you're looking for. Alright, so that's it for T-logs. Good luck on your exam, and thanks for watching.